say if it's not appropriate. In the beginning, we talked about doing that test where you send the biopsy over to California.
Yes.
And then held off, and I started seeing results right away, so we didn't do it. Now I'm thinking, I don't think I'm seeing results as fast as some of the people I've heard about. Maybe I need to do that because. So how do you make that decision?
Right. So everyone got the question. The question is what about biopsying and sending off to California where they tested against specific drugs. Well, you can make that decision at any point. At the beginning, you can make it, or you can make it like now. If you think that you're not seeing the results as quickly as you would expect, then you can do it. You can wait. It doesn't matter. Some people we wait until we actually have tried several protocols and they kind of reach their end. But got to always keep in mind that part of the therapy is only one part. It's not the whole thing, and it does have a really important function, but it's not all of it. What are you feeling that's not?
Well, I just feel like the tumor is getting smaller, but not as fast as I thought maybe it would.
Is it softer?
A little bit, yeah.
Still hard?
Yeah, well, feel it. Yeah, it's softer, definitely softer.
Yeah.
And there's less of it. That's good.
Usually cancer's really hard.
Yeah.
And as it gets softer, it's really all the connective tissue and the other stuff around it. The cancer itself is a real hard, firm mass. So sometimes the whole mass itself might not shrink that much, but it becomes soft. And what happens, especially in breast, it just kind of becomes part of the breast tissue because the malignant cells are gone. But we can do it any time, and it only takes 5 days to get the result. 5 to 7 days.
It's just balancing money, trying to figure out.
Right. It's a money thing.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with getting the biopsy and getting some sort of piece of the tumor is that it allows you to target your therapy a little more definitively, so that actually your stay here is shorter.
Yeah, that's concern.
Right.
Can't do this forever.
Right. So you think about the cost at the beginning versus stretching out the time, and it's a difficult decision. And I don't know if Lodi has, if people submitted it to get reimbursed. But and the reason everyone understands the reason is because each tumor has its own unique characteristics, and it is tumor cells have the ability to push out the poisons, and they learn how to do that. The more they're poisoned, survive. And then, but there are some that they just can't because they don't have the mechanisms, they don't have the genetics, they don't have the ability to do that. So that's kind of what is found out when they do this sort of thing. So you can avoid that part of treatment where things kind of slow down.
So cancer starts growing in your body quite a few years before you really ever get symptoms or whatever. How is there a way to kind of know if there's something going on in your body, or how can you maybe detect it before it shows up like his showed up in highly elevated, liver enzymes in his blood?
Mm-hmm. Right. So the question is, how can you detect cancer early before it becomes a clinical problem? Well, the answer is that we all have cancer. So, cancerous cells. It doesn't mean we have tumors that are compromising our function. It just means that there's these things are happening all the time. The only way to detect it at that point is there's a test. There's a blood test that you can send off to Japan, and Dr. Kobayashi there takes a look at chemicals that are not usually looked at on regular blood tests, standard blood tests, like sialic acid, just things that we wouldn't think of normally. And he puts them together in an algorithm and is able to see whether or not what stage of cancer that you fall into. And he has 5 stages. And stage 1 is 0 cancer. And stage 5 is 1 gram of cancer. So all the other ones are like nanograms, micrograms, milligrams. They're very small. Cancer doesn't become what we call stage 1 here until it's about 1 gram. So if you were to do a test with him, you could say you're at 3 or 2 or 4, which is compatible with a long life. You don't have to ever be beyond that. You can, as long as you keep it at that. You can keep it at that by rightful, healthy living.
What's his name and the name of the test?
Kobayashi. The name of the test is TMCA, Tumor Marker Combination Assay.
If you never have any symptoms, you wouldn't think to go and ask a doctor what's
Right.
going on, because you don't know it until you have symptoms of some kind.
Well, unless you don't have symptoms and you say, I'd like to know.
But most of the time you go to a doctor, if you don't have symptoms, you say, well, they look at you like, well, what are you here for? You're taking up my time, Just like many times when she started feeling symptoms and tried to tell the doctor, she kept saying, but you remember, doctor, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. It's fine. Until they got to the point, all right, there's a softball-sized tumor there. Oh, we should have done something a little sooner, shouldn't we? But they don't listen.
No. Well, the doctors are only trained in symptom management.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a symptom, they don't have anything to do. Because they don't. Right.
But instead of seeing that if I have a tumor on the other side, then your numbers still in an average or what's acceptable, so you're
Right.
testing.
So really, they're and what they have for pain is a symptom, and what they would give you is something to relieve the pain, not to find out the cause of the pain. That's unfortunately, that's what's happened in medicine. In the world of medicine now, doctors look for diagnoses. And once they have a diagnosis, what is a diagnosis? It's a name. Once they have a name for a condition, it now fits into their menu. It's a category, and that category has all these things you can do about it. And so they start from 1, 2, 3, 4. You really don't need doctors anymore. You really just need someone to interpret. Someone to look at the blood. You can have a computer easily do that. And a computer can say, aha, blah, 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 blah.
So 8 years ago, what were your symptoms when you first started 8 years ago? I don't remember, before your surgery. Stomach pains, and did you have your periods? Well, yeah, if someone like that had come to you then, how would you have treated it, rather than putting her in a hospital and taking everything else?
If someone had come with bowel pain
Stomach pain.
and nausea, and basically that was it. So what I would do is just think about it. If someone came to me with ankle pain, what would I do? I'd get an x-ray to make sure it's not fractured. Once I knew it wasn't fractured, or it was fractured, then I would proceed accordingly. If it was fractured, we would splint it in a certain way. And if it wasn't fractured, then what we do is we would rest it and then begin and use anti-inflammatory like ice and maybe some curcumin, some other herbs that are not toxic, right, to reduce inflammation. But you'd stay off of it, you'd rest it for a while until it healed, because the body will heal. So if you come with that, gastrointestinal pain and nausea, what does that mean? That means your gastrointestinal system is in trouble. And so what do you do when something's in trouble? When something's in trouble, some part of your body's in trouble, it's overwhelmed. It's not able to function because something is overwhelming it. And if you know that the body can cure itself, that's what it wants to do, that's what it has to do. Just like water has to run downhill, wounds need to heal. Okay, so it will start to heal. So what we would probably do is put her on a fast and a cleanse. Examine her, put her on a fast and a cleanse, look at some blood tests. Wouldn't necessarily do a CAT scan or anything like that, PET scan at that point, because those symptoms are not, they're so vague, they could be anything. So if she was willing to do, like a 2 to 4 week, 6 week fast and cleanse, change her life, get colonics and do all that sort of thing, most likely it would not have evolved into cancer. Most likely. If her symptoms did not change, then we would do CAT scans, PET scans, things like that to try to find out. But in most cases, in fact, it all begins that way. It all begins in the GI tract, the gastrointestinal tract. It all begins there. If we can keep our GI tract clean and filled with, and put nothing in there but wholesome living foods, then our body will stay in repair, unless we get exposed to an extreme toxin like radiation, or we're ingesting dioxin or something like that, something that overwhelms the body's ability to deal with it. But other than that, it's the master healer, the master cleanser. The master healer is fasting and not doing. But if we did a blood test and we found that she had some elevations and certain tumor markers and things like that, we would go a little bit further and find out exactly what it is. But the interesting thing to realize is that which is necessary to restore one to health is also necessary to maintain health. Which means that you won't do anything, you wouldn't do anything differently if you were sick than if you were well. Right? I mean, if you're well enough to walk around, you don't know how healthy you really are. Periodic fasting, eating right, keeping your colon cleansed, doing that sort of thing is going to maintain it. If you're sick, keeping your colon cleansed is going to resolve it. So it's the same thing. The only difference in, when you have a tumor burden is that you would use low dose chemo, which we do. Other than that,
rather than removing organs, you would just do the low dose chemo.
Yeah. And because we can always remove organs. But if you know that you have an ability to, or the body has the ability to stop the process, to reverse the process, and that it wants to heal, if you know that, then you have the faith to go on. The big part is faith. Faith is kind of, it's a knowing without knowing. You've got to know intuitively. So if you understand the way the body works, you understand that it will heal. If you know that healing does not come in a bottle, it doesn't come in an IV, that's not healing. That's an intervention that will assist in one aspect of cleansing or one aspect of destroying aberrant cells and all that. But the healing, the actual production of new healthy cells, which in the end is what you really want. That's what you really want to have that ability. That there is not purchasable. That is something that one earns. We don't know that. And if you go to a doctor who hasn't studied health, he can't direct you in that direction. He says, show me a symptom and I'll squash it.
So this assay, tumor marker combination assay, if a person wanted to do that and you didn't have a cooperative doctor, could you order that on your own?
No, you have to go through someone that knows Dr. Kobayashi. We do.
Oh, okay.
They haven't even heard of it.
Before they ever heard of you, is there anybody else that really?
No. He's just not known in America.
Do they use this testing plan very much?
He does. You can look him up on the web, Kobayashi, Tsuneo Kobayashi. But we've got, if you want to, we've got his paper, we've got some of his research. When he was, when President Reagan had a polyp in his colon, I remember that was, when was that, the 80s, 90s? 80s? He was elected. So, he had that, and I remember looking at newspapers in those days and seeing they had pictures of colons, and made a big deal about it. And I guess it was a situation where his was undetectable by blood test. His CEA was probably normal. So, Dr. Kobayashi sent Nancy Reagan a letter telling her that he could help her monitor his progress or whether or not he was where he was because of this tumor marker combination assay. She passed on that letter to her chief of staff, who then gave it to the Mayo Clinic, and the Mayo Clinic sent him. They didn't believe him, so they sent him, I think, 100 tubes. The small tubes of blood. Now, usually he needs 2 tubes to make the assessment. He needs a little bit more blood because he runs a lot of tests. But they just sent him 100 tubes with no names, no sex, and so he took those, having half the information, and sent back his evaluation, and he was 87.5% accurate, which is more accurate than most equipment we have now. Because they knew, they sent blood of people they knew who later on developed cancer, or so they had, so it kind of blew their mind. And right about then was we were still at the height of the Cold War, and I think Mitsubishi was selling selling plans about something, cars or something to the Soviet Union. And for that reason, Japan, that was the era of the beginning of the Japan bashing era. Remember when Japan was a bad word? And so because of that, it kind of cut off their whole relationship. So otherwise, Kobayashi probably would have gone to the Mayo Clinic and it would have been, but it didn't happen. So he stayed there and he actually he's perfected it. So he doesn't tell you what it is, or where it is, but now he's able to kind of say, check a CA-125 or do a bone scan, or he'll tell you to do stuff like that. But what I saw was one of the things I saw over the years was a woman that came into him with she had a stage 3, his 3, and he said to her, he has a program. His program includes fasting and going through a thing that rebalances your autonomic nervous system. He changes your diet and does things like that. And when he does it, he's able to take someone who's like a 5 down to a 3 or 4. So anyway, she was at a 3, and he said, if you if you do this, you're probably, or she was at a 4. So if you do this, you won't advance. You might go down to a 3. She didn't do it. And I just happened to be I came over to his office about 2 years later, and she was in the waiting room, and she had breast cancer. She hadn't done it. So he's done that over and over again. So it's kind of a neat test. It costs what, $1,000? So the time that we use it is, let's say we do a treatment and you finally get to the point where your tumor markers are normal and your PET scan is normal. And now we want to know where you are. That's the only place we can test. It's the only one system. There's nothing like that anywhere else, in Europe or America.
So when would you use that instead of the one in Greece?
One in Greece is going to, you have known tumor.
Oh, okay.
So you're testing those cells and you're testing them against different agents.
So that's just a circulating.
Right.
Yeah.
They look at the circulating tumor cells. They don't look at the biochemistry. See, what he's looking at, he's looking at the chemicals that are produced by tumor cells, vascular cells, connective tissue cells. Because he realizes, like Nagorny realizes, that a tumor is not just this malignant cell. You can have malignant cells circulating in your blood, and they don't have any ground to settle in. It's like you throw a seed on the desert. Unless it's a cactus, it's not going to do much. So, circulating tumor cells in and of themselves are not a big deal. It's whether or not they have fertile ground. So he looks at that combination because it's that combination of the ground, it's that combination of those three tissues that produce a tumor. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he's looking at. And if you've got that combination in a certain degree, in a certain relationship, one would say that he would be able to say where you are in the process. The great thing is that the process can be reversed. There's a point at which it can't in most cases, and that's where other organs are being where your other organs have been compromised. But that's rare.
Well, okay, so I know you don't believe really in much supplementation or anything, but like since you're talking about the gastrointestinal tract, do you think it's good to take the daily probiotic? And then what about things out there like beta-glucans for immune system support? Is that worth it to take anything like that, or?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, we do have probiotics.
Mm-hmm.
Are you taking any? Yeah. Are you fasting? Yeah, after the fast. But we do use probiotics are essential. The other thing is beta-glucans. Really, the BRM4 that you're getting is pretty much beta-glucan.
What's the DR?
Which you're not taking yet. Okay, but what it is rice treated with an enzyme from a mushroom. I think maitake or shiitake, I can't remember what it is. And basically it's a beta-glucan. Beta-glucans are really the molecules that are like on cell surfaces. So they react with other beta-glucans, and what happens is it stimulates immune function. So the whole mushroom phenomenon is that, and where you can double natural killer cells and things like that. So sure, those are really normally in a normal healthy or normal person who's not got any severe disease, supplementation is not really necessary. But
Well, I guess I start thinking about that because then I think, well, unless I get that doctor's test, and how do I know that I'm not maybe at a mid-level? Should I be taking beta-glucans and the things like that would, in addition to a really good, clean diet?
And to figure out what it is you should take. If you can get any of that stuff in whole foods, of course it's better because it's bioavailable.
Right.
Like Brazil nuts have selenium. If you have 4 Brazil nuts a day, you've got most of the selenium you need. So if you make Brazil nut milk to make your salva in the morning, you'll be getting lots of selenium, right? And then if you just look up the mineral content of different foods, and you start eating those in that way, you're going to get those minerals that were prepared by the plants from the earth. They were prepared by the plants for us. Supplements, you always have to, it's important that you look at the manufacturer, because they're not regulated. Because they're not regulated, one pill could have 50 milligrams, another one could have 90 milligrams. It's just, that's one thing you don't know.
You see a lot of silicon, some a lot of silicon
right.
too.
And then you also don't know if it's what the ingredients were. What did they start with? Are they petroleum products? So most of the ones that you'll find like at Walmart and places like that are, just don't buy them. And if you see a manufacturer, like usually if you go to Whole Foods, the person that's there is pretty much aware, because they buy them and they're in touch with the manufacturers and they know who produces goods. But what are you looking for? If you call the manufacturer yourself and say, how do you prepare it? Hopefully it's cold pressed, because they don't use heat that destroys it. They use organic ingredients. And if you've got that to begin with, then even if it doesn't help you, it won't hurt you. But as far as supplements to take,
Is it necessary to take hydrochloric acid?
After 50, it starts to become necessary, just because you don't have the pH in your stomach is not low enough.
But how about in cancer patients?
Huh?
How about in cancer patients? Should they be taking hydrochloric acid?
Mm-hmm. Before a meal.
Before a meal.
And not a lot. You take 1 capsule, and if you're eating, you don't feel anything, and the next time you take 2, you keep taking them up until you start to feel a warm feeling, kind of a warm light burn, then you know you've had too much, and you can back off. Otherwise, you can go get a Heidelberg test, which is a very expensive, uncomfortable test where they drop something down your nose and measure the pH in your stomach.
Got there anyway.
Yeah.
The pH doesn't always be the same.
Right, and exactly. So, so if there's anything you're going to take all the time, it would be that and probiotics and probably C.
Oh.
Vitamin C. And then if you're going to eat cooked food, enzymes. And good enzymes. What else? What else would we?
So basically, your living style is what? Just juicing and fresh, leafy green vegetables.
Yeah, and
All colors of vegetables, not just green.
right.
Majority of them green. Eating all colors.
The thing about green.
Carotene.
The thing about green is that it gives you. Green is. Green means it's chlorophyll. Chlorophyll means it's a certain kind of ring structure that has magnesium. Magnesium is rarely measured in conventional medicine, but magnesium is so important in everything. You make ATP with it. If you listed all things magnesium did, you'd be amazed. But green is magnesium. Magnesium makes almost everything run. Green is also, the green has pretty much the molecule for blood, for a red blood cell. So you get all those ingredients, so you can have plenty of raw materials for to produce new red blood cells. green also has a ton of phytonutrients, different kinds of nutrients that are good for you. The colorful ones, the yellows and the oranges and stuff like that, they have the beta carotenes and the other, the tocopherols, the vitamin E, and they have those other things. And they all have a really good purpose. So the main thing to do is maybe of your vegetables, 50% green, the other 50% colorful. So you have really more, or 60%, just like that. And if you're eating like that, your colon's clean, you're exercising,
Stay home. Well, what does a person do who has a hard time getting juices down?
So you mean
Keeping them down.
it depends what's going on,
She just has a hard time getting the juices down.
But I mean, if you have a hard time getting water down too, right?
Is it because of the one functioning kidney? Would that have something to do with it? No?
No, but if food stays down?
Food's okay, but when you drink that green juice the other day before,
Yeah.
The taste, the smell?
it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. She was sick. Because of what she knew she was going to bring it back up again and still move her bowels and she turned white as a sheet. Yeah, we both at the same time. And it took quite a while for her system to calm down again.
So they were saying something about blended food instead of juice so much?
Well, you can eat. You can just eat all the food that's produced, that's prepared here. Because, I mean, the only difference between blended food and regular food is it's been blended. It still has all the fiber. It still has everything in it. The advantage of juice is that you remove the fiber and you're just using chemicals produced by the plant. And it's a lot less work on your gastrointestinal system. And you get the chance to heal. So if you're not doing that, you might as well just eat. And the advantage of eating regular food is that you chew, and if you chew, you mix it with saliva. If you're eating blended foods, you might not keep it in your mouth long enough to keep it, to get it moistened with saliva, and so you won't, which is the first part of digestion. So blended foods are really good to come out of a juice feast or a fast. And you do them for a while, mix them in your mouth, and you can use them as a meal. Like once you're eating again, it's nice to have a wild rice dish, some other main meal, and soup. Some dehydrated bread. You get a whole meal. You feel full, especially if you live up in the north and it's cold. You need a feeling like that. You need to feel full and satisfied. And you don't with the salad. You've got to have those other things. So what's important is those of you who live up north is make sure you get enough recipes in your repertoire so that when you get up there you can make things that are going to be filling. You got to be full, and you also have to learn to snack. We snack. That's what we do as humans. So you got to learn how to snack. And there's some delicious snacks. Apples with that pumpkin seed butter is good. I mean, even if you were going to have a piece of cake, grab a banana and put some almond seed butter on it. It's better than grabbing a piece of cake. The banana, there's make those dehydrated nuts and seeds. Learn how to make things and stay full and keep yourself like that. But so if you're nauseated with juice, then don't drink juice. Your body doesn't want it right now, so just eat. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Well, I was, and I think, well, I'm not doing the program for that.
Well, that's that's. It's important for a cleansing period. You can. Now, how long has it been since you couldn't drink fluids or liquids?
I've had a problem all my life.
All your life? All liquids, huh? They get into your stomach and they don't settle.
It takes a while because it comes to the sore.
But how about just water?
Well, I can drink water slowly, but
I just never drink a lot of it.
What we could do is put you on a water fast, which is actually the king of all fasts, and make sure that every day you get a couple liters IV so that even if you're not drinking, you're still totally hydrated. Can you eat melons?
Yeah, but there's so much sugar in melons.
Right, but they're actually really digestible, and the glycemic load is not as bad as the glycemic index. It's really super cleansing. You feel wonderful. You become very opulent. Like and you'll see you can't eat too many. You know, in a day you might be able to eat 2 melons at most. You know, but after 7 to 10 days, you're just flying.
What type of melon? Cantaloupe or
Whatever. Cantaloupe, honeydew, cassava, Crenshaw, watermelon.
I was eating watermelon last month with my started the raw food line.
But if you don't, you can't mix it. You can't mix it with 1 grain of rice. You can't mix it with one thing. You can't mix it. The minute you mix it, you change it. It has to just be that. In fact, you've heard people say, well, I just went on a cucumber diet. If you go on any one thing, it'll be fantastic. You know, think about if we were in a natural environment, how would we eat? Let's say a natural environment and there was no artificial urban development. You know, we'd probably live in groups and we'd come upon an avocado tree. Sit down and eat avocados till we're full. And then maybe not eat again until the next day, and then come upon it. You know what I mean? Come upon broccoli. You know, the idea of bringing and mixing and matching. And if you look at children, you know, when you have young children, and you try to give them your concoctions of stews or whatever it is, they're repelled by it. They like simple things. You know, because they're still instinctual, and their instincts tell them you don't eat, you know, mixtures of things. We learn to do that. We learn to accommodate. We learn to eat cooked food. The greatest sin that happens on this earth is the way we feed our children. We stuff them with poison.
My youngest daughter, for the longest time, when she was really small, would eat nothing but Cheerios. Cheerios. I think it looked like a Cheerio, but I talked to the doctor about it. Leave her alone. She's ready to eat. She will. She grew up. She loves all the vegetables and things now, but when she was little, all she wanted was Cheerios.
How did she know she wanted Cheerios?
Whenever I made her nice, nutritious meals, and she
how did she know she wanted Cheerios?
I don't know.
Want me to tell you how?
How?
Because they were available. She saw them. She had them.
Really?
She didn't go to the store and buy them, right?
No.
Okay, so someone got them.
Yeah.
You put them in front of her.
Like them.
Well, they're designed. They're designed by an empire that is there to take money from you and to get you addicted to certain foods. Okay, the FDA, Food Drug Administration, they make sure the foods lead you into the drugs, into the medical thing. Connected. The point is, if she had never had an opportunity to taste Cheerios, she would never love Cheerios. So had she had an opportunity where all there was fruit and seeds and nuts, she would have found another thing. So really, again, we have to understand that, you know, if I could do over the raising of my children, I would.
Yeah, we all said that.
I just,
yeah.
You know, it's just, so, now they are what they are now because that's how they were raised.
But you knew then, but you know now, yeah, we all would have done something different.
The thing is, I knew it.
We didn't.
But it's hard to practice it on your.
Well, you got to have a spouse that's on the same page.
And it's hard to practice because, you know, your kids are going to school with other kids.
Yeah.
Well, there's another mistake. Sending them to public school.
Yeah.
Why give them away to the public school? Because public school is there to teach them what? What? To teach them to be citizens. They're not there to educate them. The dumbing down of America I mean, you look at a homeschool child versus, you know, okay, they're going to give them social skills. What does that mean, social skills? How to stand in line, how to follow orders, how to say yes, sir.
How to use.
Right. That's what they learn in public schools. So it's our fault. We gave them the public schools, we gave them junk food, and here they are. They're citizens. U.S. citizens. So, you know, so But if they weren't exposed to it, if they could find a way not to expose them to it, they wouldn't have that as a option. You know?
And their instinct is to go for real food. Like I see my kids. We don't have a junk food drawer in my house. My drawer has nuts and jars, and the fridge has fruit. They never really ask for cereal or oatmeal, those non-nuts, and then go in the fridge and grab an apple.
Yeah.
Eat it for breakfast, as opposed to having a bowl of cereal.
But then when they're with other children who like snacks and things.
You know, for the longest time, my oldest son would see candy and he was afraid of it. He would say, that's really bad for you, you shouldn't have it. And people would come up to him and offer him chocolate, and he would tell them at 3 and 4 what chocolate does to you. He was terrified of chocolate. And it's only after people started pushing him to have it that he's acquired a taste for it.
You see, and if they had pushed cigarettes on him, they could be arrested, which is a toxin. If they pushed alcohol, they could be arrested. But the fact that, how about if they pushed animal carcass on him, which has caused more deaths than all the cigarettes in the world ever. You know, it's so really, you know, the answer, unfortunately, is you have to move to a place where you can develop a community of people who are like-minded, an intentional community, where your children, you know, wherever they go and get exposed, it's going to they're going to get the same answer.
Or you just teach them to be leaders and not followers. You know, they don't have to conform to what the other people are doing or giving them. You got to be really strong to say no.
And not all kids were cut out for that. Maybe. Because, you know, we practice on our kids, and we would like to go back and do it over, but it's too late.
You know, and the big hook is taste. You know, there are 4 tastes on the tongue. Sour. So sweet, salt, bitter, and sour. And there's nothing else. The rest is smell. That's why when you have a cold and you eat, you can't taste it. You can taste it, you just can't smell it. Olfaction and gustation go together to give you that sensation. You know, so if you get someone, and these are highly addictive. Candies are addictive. Okay, sweets are, you know, and that's right on the front of your tongue too. It's right there. Yeah. It's interesting. I've talked to many people over the last couple of years who tell me that they were, patients again, who told me that they were at 13 or 8. They decided they didn't want to eat meat. They became spontaneous vegetarian. I can't believe how many people I've met.
My cousin did that. She feeds meat and took the dog under the table.
Right.
I used to do that.
So they couldn't, which I think is great. Or they watch an animal get slaughtered and then they say, I can't eat that. So, you know, the answer is, if we eat nothing but wholesome foods, real wholesome organic foods, we eat them, and we eat a wide variety, just a wide variety of vegetables. We're going to get all the 8. We only need 8 amino acids, and we can produce all the rest. Children need 10, adults need 8. But you only need those 8, and they're abundant. In fact, amino acids are produced. The foundational amino acids are produced by plants. They're not produced by animals. The animal, if you're getting protein, which is amino acids from an animal, it's because the animal has ingested plants. You know.
You have a hard time convincing people of that.
But it's not. But it's just biological truth.
Yeah, when you say that you're a vegan or a vegetarian, but if you're not getting enough protein, yes, I am. My vegetables. It's hard to prove to people.
Well, no, it's not. Ask them where the horse gets its protein. about the elephant? Giraffe? You name a large, strong, powerful animal and tell me where it gets protein.
My younger son says, God doesn't give us these teeth that we're supposed to chew meat.
What teeth?
Meat.
What teeth? They're cuspids.
Yeah.
These cuspids do not drop down. They don't drop down. Canines are cuspids. They're cuspids. These are incisors, these are cuspids. Bicuspids and then molars. The cuspid doesn't drop down. Also, the cheek gets in the way. If you look at an animal which has fangs or cuspids, they don't have a cheek. So when their mouth opens, we can't. It gets in the way. We can't do that. We can't rip. I mean, we can, but it's not the same as a claw. That just, we're not designed for murder.
That's why we use tools.
That's why we use tools. We have to come up with tools to do it. Our bodies aren't made for it. These are not canines. If he thinks that's a canine, tell him he needs to go to the zoo, open the mouth of a lion, and then look at himself. Just come check it out. And by the way, who has the biggest canines in the world? Which animal?
Or
Hippo.
hippo? Really?
And they're 100% vegan.
Really?
But they're flat. They're not into that. They have another. But I mean, just if we were going to just look at that, that's another thing. But the point is that carnivorously designed animals have a specific anatomy that allows them to do that. We're not fast. We certainly couldn't outrun a deer. There's no way that all we can maybe do is come upon a body that has died. Right, like a scavenger. I mean, you might be scavengers. But the thing is, a decaying corpse is in no way appealing to anyone. No one. No one looks at a decaying corpse and goes, However, a peach, apple, they smell, who doesn't like them? If you bring a kid up a candy and they never had fruit, they might not like it. But if you bring a child up on fruit, but anyway, if you eat mostly that, keep your colon clean, exercise, sleep 8 to 10 hours a night, head facing either north or south.
Why heading north or south?
Because that's the magnetic pole, and our bodies are electromagnetic.
Should do magnetic north then.
Or south, it doesn't matter as long as it's running.
Not true north, but magnetic.
Right, magnetic north. But just, some people have in fact, there's a book I should try to find. Did I ever show you that? By Phil Potts, Dr. Phil Potts. Brilliant guy. Looking at magnets and healing. If you had a fracture or a traumatized part of your body, and you take a certain magnet with a certain gauss on it, it'll heal quickly and you won't even be able to find the fracture. It's amazing. Why? Because our bodies are electromagnetic, right? The heart's, everything's magnetic. With astronauts, when astronauts would come back from being in space, they were goofy and loony when they got out. It took a few days for them to get that because there was no magnet. Now they keep the ships magnetized. So our consciousness is tied in. Our brain function is an electromagnetic thing. When people say they see auras, that's not something woo-woo. They're able to see the electromagnetic field that's happening. Right? It's not New Age make-believe. It's real. Right, so there are. Now, Dr. Phil Potts, I got to find his book, all this incredible research on magnets and cancer. You get a certain magnetic mattress, and there's 3 places around the country where they have one's Tucson and Connecticut, I think, and maybe Florida, where they have these incredible magnets with, what the Gauss is the unit of measure of a magnet, right? So the Gaussian pull of the Earth's magnetic field was around 3.5 during the days of the pharaohs. Now it's less than 0.5. Now, if our consciousness and our functioning requires a good, powerful magnetic field, and it's decreasing, no wonder people are chaotic and look what's happening. And as a matter of fact, it's according to the greatest scientists that ever were, including Einstein, that this reverses. It gets down to a point, goes to zero, and then reverses, and north becomes south, and south becomes north.
Oh, that's happening.
Yeah, it's happened over and over again. And we can tell when you look down at rocks, deep rocks, you can see that the curves in the iron, are deeper at some point, and they get less. So we can tell what the curves were, but and they've been reversed. Just like right now, if you flush the toilet south below the equator, it's going to turn the whirlpool will go the other way.
Did you check that out in Ecuador? I forgot to.
In Vanuatu, I forgot to also. But so anyway, there's one of the things that I think is going to happen is that we will get to 0 point, and it takes about a 72-hour period for the actual switch of the magnetic field. And that 72-hour period of no magnetic field could result in absolute erasure of memory. We could become, it could be an incredible situation.
To take you from 0.5 down to 0.
We don't know, but if we extrapolate, it's 3.5 during that. It's probably pretty soon. I don't know where we're at exactly, but it would seem that if that's the case, so there are. Remember we were talking about the electromagnetic field? And people talk about auras. People that can see auras, they're either going in a clockwise fashion or a counterclockwise fashion. They they're kind of like a flower or a flame. And I don't remember which direction is our normal state. Like people that are psychic, I don't know if you ever met a psychic. I mean, there was a lady in Hawaii who was unbelievable. She would tell us details about. She was very Catholic, and when she saw something that she wanted to say, she would cross herself, and she was very humble, and people waited outside her. She was like. But anyway, she would say things like, she told me, she said, "Your car scratched 3 times." I mean, that's just one thing she did. 3 months later, someone scratched my car. I was working at a prison. I was a prison doctor. Another month later, someone scratched. It happened like 3 times. Just little things like that. We're like. So anyway, supposedly people that are clairvoyant, which is just a French word for meaning clear seeing, their magnetic field is going in the opposite direction. So anyway, so the idea is that, according to the researchers in this field, if during that 72-hour period where we get to 0 points, if we could develop a way to get our fields, and it'll be protected, we won't lose our consciousness. This is all conjecture, no one knows. But those who know are pretty sure they know. We do know that the field has changed.
Is that what happens to people that are going to Alzheimer's? Or is that something different?
No, it's just poisoning of the brain.
Could you explain how cooking food damages food?
Sure, you all heard the question. How does cooking food damage it? Well, in many, many ways, you think about what happens under natural conditions, the sun, you have a seed, you have earth, which is full of minerals and other organic matter, and water, and the sun. So you have that combination. And very slowly what happens is the sun is giving it a substance that allows it to come to life. It wakes up the seed from dormancy. Right? That's called sprouting. Once it sprouts, the potential that was in the acorn, the potential that was in the seed, is now being realized. So that's the sun's job. That's the light. Okay? We don't understand it, but it's the life force. And the rest of it is providing the structure and the chemicals and all that sort of thing. So this takes a long time to grow. So consider a tomato. Consider a tomato plant. It starts to grow, and you've got a little, and then it starts to get these little green balls, and it gets bigger, and then and it's a very slow process. In nature, things happen like that. And what's happening is it's incorporating all these minerals and phytonutrients in a certain relationship to each other. So when you hold a tomato, the final product of a tomato in your hand, you could take it apart and say, yes, there is lycopene, there is vitamin C, there is fiber, there is beta-carotene, there is selenium, copper, there are these minerals, all these things. But those elements are in a relationship to each other that makes them appropriate as food for those creatures that want to eat it. Okay, like a dog probably won't eat a tomato, or certain animals won't. A lion's not going to eat a tomato. So anyway, so now that's happened. You've got all those relationships. You've got carbohydrates in there. You've got protein in there. You've got fat in there. Okay, because all three we consider the basics of nutrition: carbs, fats, and protein are in everything. It's just in differing degrees.
Are there fats in vegetables?
Yeah, absolutely.
Vegetable oil.
Yeah, and mostly in their seeds. Mostly in their seeds. That's where you get flaxseed oil, right? You get hemp seed oil, stuff like that. You get nut oils, nut butters. Yeah. Okay, so now, if you start to heat it up, what happens? What happens is that proteins, like if you're in a laboratory and you have a Bunsen burner, and you put 2 chemicals or 3 chemicals in, not much happens. In certain cases, until you start to raise the heat. When you raise the heat, you increase the chance that a reaction is going to occur. Okay. Now, when you have a reaction, what happens? The molecular structures change. Molecules join, you have new molecules. Okay. That's a reaction. So now when you're heating up a substance that has all the nutrients and all the appropriate relationships for your food, now you start to heat it up. What happens is you start changing the molecular structure. Like the proteins will coagulate. The carbohydrates will caramelize. Okay, in fact, when carbohydrates are heated to 350 degrees, they start producing acrylamide. Acrylamide is a known carcinogen. So any carbohydrate, baked potatoes that you've eaten that goes over 350 degrees has produced acrylamide, which is a carcinogen. Okay, so you do that. Now the minerals which may be chelated to an amino acid are separated. Because in that chelated form to the amino acid, it would be easily absorbable. Now it's no longer easily absorbable. Okay, so when you heat it up, you actually destroy it. And an example of that is, in 1960, the British Medical Journal published a study where they took cows, milked them, and and then homogenized, pasteurized the milk, fed the pasteurized product to the calves. And I forget the period of time, I think it was 2 months, that 8 out of 10 were dead. Because the milk was dead. It no longer had it. So, consider this. The enzymes that are in there, this is a very important part. Remember, enzymes, what are enzymes? Enzymes are catalysts. A catalyst is something that causes a reaction to occur quicker, but it itself is not used up in the reaction. That's what a catalyst is. Okay? Catalysts in biological systems are called enzymes. So enzymes allow reactions to occur in a faster rate. Is that important? Well, a water and oxygen molecule bouncing around in a solution, perhaps once a month, would come together at the right angle, the right force to turn into H2O2, hydrogen peroxide.
But if you just warm it, not cooking it at high degrees.
So if you put the enzyme catalase in there, it would turn it at a million per second. So instead of something occurring by random chance, once an hour, once a week, once a minute, it would happen 1,000 times a second. Google reaction time of catalase. It's over 1 million per second. That's faster than the speed of light. So other enzymes are functioning at 400 times a minute, 5,000 times a second. They're producing reactions that allow this system to remain intact. So enzymes are in fact the very workhorse of nature. They are how nature happens. They are the basic fundamental biochemical process that happens. When we think of physiology, what physiology is it's a bunch of different biochemical reactions. So these enzymes are destroyed after 118 degrees. They are destroyed. They lose their tertiary structure, which is their shape. Okay, at 118 degrees. They start to lose it at 105, at 118 they're permanently gone. So now it no longer has its shape, and if it doesn't have its shape, it doesn't have its function. Right? I can have 5 fingers. If I put one over my thumb here, I don't have the function. I got to have the shape, function, anatomy, physiology. So you destroy the enzymes, you coagulate the proteins, you caramelize the carbs, you modify and dissociate the minerals from the vitamins and all that sort of thing. So what you're left with is something else. And you destroy the enzymes. Now the enzymes aren't there. The final thing that you lose is what? The spark of life that came from the sun. So now you have the spark of life gone, all the ingredients are no longer working together, and basically you have turned it into a corpse. You have turned it into a non-functional food. Now, our bodies being of divine origin are capable of adapting, and we're pretty good. And we'll adapt to it, and we'll be able to... But listen, I have 2 kids.